our chief judges in the country who are of age don't want to resign. It is happening also in the civil service. They want to get old and die there. They don't want to leave. So the NJC, the body responsible for monitoring and regulating the professional bodies in the country, has forcefully retired 10 judges from the Nigerian courts.
Senior Advocate of Nigeria joins us now to look at the ongoing house cleaning exercise in the judiciary. What do you make of the house cleaning exercise?
Well, it's okay. It's in line with the law and it's in line with the policy of the NJC, because the NJC is the only body independent from the president that purges itself, the judiciary purges itself from any wrongdoing. And if any judicial officer, be you a judge, no matter your status, if you're found wanting, the NJC, the judiciary has a mechanism through the NJC by section 153-271 to see how these things are put in place. And it comes with maybe caution, retirement, and all that to say that, yes, the public trust is being put in place for citizens of this country. And that is why the NJC in its 109 meeting went into it, looked at it, and found certain judges wanting, the ones that were due for retirement in view of the litigation before them, they were meant to be retired. The ones that needed to be reprimanded, they were reprimanded. And the ones that were maybe put on watch lists, not to be promoted, were also given that in line with the NJC policy. And like I always say, you know, the judiciary, apart from the legislature and also the executive, is the only arm of government that purges itself, that has a system that purges itself. Though the judges, as it is, they work so hard, they work tirelessly. It's so difficult. And they have a lot of pressure. At the end of the day, citizens will say this judge is corrupt, that judge is corrupt, but you don't really know the tax that is involving. They don't sleep day in, day out. There are mass pressure on them. And you see, these politicians will come with their problem, trying to see how they can penetrate the system, see how they can beat the system, just to try and see how they put these people in trouble. So it is the only system right now that survives itself in the country. The executive, the legislature, just keep it aside. And that is why the aim, the NJC is trying to put this measure in order, is to see how they can build public trust for the citizens of this country.
Yeah, because you talked about trust, and you mentioned it in places. The discussion is that they said the court is the last hope of the common man.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Now the allegations that judges either are being bought and lawyers themselves are causing a lot of problems, because you have court judgments passed at the level of the court of the same jurisdiction here. It goes to another state, and then you have another judgment.
That is stay decisis.
You know, so what's your response to that statement that the ones shooting themselves in the leg?
Well, I would say, like what you said, the doctrine of stare decisis means that if a judgment of a court is being given, like the Supreme Court, all other courts should obey. We shouldn't have contrary judgment here or there.
So why are they not obeying?
And you see, the problem is that the politicians, they try as much as possible to come into the system. They try as much as possible to see how they can mount pressure on them. And at the end of the day, you see there's problem, there's confusion. And what we are trying to say, even with lawyers are not doing well. Section 1, Order 1 of the Rules of Professional Conduct talks about a lawyer should be ready to uphold the law at all times. And if you see all these petitions, counter petitions coming, they come from senior lawyers, even senior advocates of Nigeria. Some of them they'll say, oh, don't obey court orders. You see, which is absolutely wrong. If I uphold the law for whatever reason, if I tell my client, look, I'm not comfortable, obey the judgment, obey the orders of court, or obey the judgment of court. If you fail to do that, hold your brief. I hold my peace, because I took an oath to uphold the law. I shouldn't be the one trying to see how I can shortchange the system or try and beat up. Recently, judgment came out. Port Harcourt judgment came out. There were orders of court even before the Supreme Court made that pronouncement. The politician failed to obey the orders of court until it got to the Supreme Court. Orders will be made today, they'll see they don't obey. They say maintain status quo pending the matter, they don't obey. Interim orders, they don't obey. Interlocutory orders, they don't obey. Judgment of court, they still don't obey.
Okay, Andrew, we're going to address that, because you see, I don't know. We're going to address that, but
absolutely.
I have to ask this question. Why would judges at that level
Yes.
falsify their ages. What's behind it? Why would someone, they recommended compulsory retirement, good.
Yes.
But why would they do that? What do you think is responsible? And how can it be guided against? I mean, I was discussing with a drug person, and we talked about prevention better than cure.
Absolutely. You see, like, the system is clear. You see, you're being called to the Nigerian bar. As at the time you got into the law school, you must have given your particulars as to your date of birth and all that. If for whatsoever reason someone tries to shortchange the system, there must be something somewhere that gave him that leeway to beat the system. And that was what the NJC did.
Okay.
They went back to the Nigerian law school and they got their qualifications, they got their documents, they got their credentials. As at the day they came into the Nigerian law school, you can still go back to the university. As on the date you got into the university. So there is something going on somewhere. Why is it that this number, we have 10, came from a particular state? And you see, there has been problem in that state. Even the governor decided not to appoint the most senior in line with section 271 sub 4 and 5 as the CJ of the state, as the chief judge of the state. That is wrong. You understand? So you know there is problem from that particular system. In the course of this, even while the NJC presided over the 109 meeting, even lawyers were being reprimanded. A lawyer was sent to the disciplinary committee for writing a petition against a chief judge of a state to be removed. And you see, the House of Assembly had taken up a position together with the governor that, look, this man should be removed from office. On what basis? You cannot do that as a lawyer. Even if you're the chief law officer, you cannot do that. Because we are known to uphold the law and defend the law. And you see, why I keep saying this is that there's so much pressure in the judiciary. There's so enormous pressure on the judges. And a lot of them go through a lot. Your problem, my problem is on their head. We go make problem there, we go cause problem there. Political parties cause wahala, cause trouble. And at the end of the day, they bring it back to the court. They still slam it on the court, expecting the court to still preside over. If the court say, okay, no, I cannot, because there's a subsisting judgment, obey the judgment based on precedents and based on state decisions, they go out and say the judge is corrupt.
Now, Ando, let's talk about this matter.
Yes.
You're a Nigerian, I'm a Nigerian.
Absolutely.
And we know that this is where, presently, Nigeria as a nation is contending with this issue of not obeying court judgments.
Yes.
Again, especially by the politicians.
Yes.
How can the system, the NJC, because I believe that if we get that right,
absolutely,
many things will be right.
Yes.
How do we get around it? Why do they disobey court orders and nothing happens to the politicians? And we just play along as if everything is okay?
Well, you know, even the past administration, before the coming of the administration of President Tinubu, we had a lot of problem with the past government for flouting court orders and disobeying court orders. It's a normal thing. They feel that it's normal and they can do anything they want to do. It weren't like that. If in the 80s, even late 70s, it weren't like that. Court judgments are meant to be obeyed by everybody in the country. But right now, as it is the system, these politicians, the executive, the legislature, that try as much as possible to force on the court. They don't obey this court order. Even if you go for execution, they try as much as possible to see how they can chase away the sheriffs, chase away the bailiffs, even service. And that is shutting down the system gradually. The judiciary has tried its best to see how they can uphold the law and make sure that democracy in this country goes in line for you and I. But every now and then, you see the pressure comes all the way from the legislature and the executive. And believe me, right now as we speak, if you look at it, in fairness, the only system of government that is functional now, that is working day in, day out, is the judiciary. That is working day in, day out. And even what comes to them is not commensurate. Forget about it. If you want to put it together, it's not commensurate. But yet these people, they keep working. A lot of them, you see, they have terminal emails.
Is that why they're trying to call the corners?
No matter what trying to call the corners. You
are
see,
you giving them?
In every Judas, in every Judas, absolutely. Let me tell you, you always have some of them. That's why you see when the NJC came out with this 109 extraordinary meeting, they got like 10 from Imo and other. You still have them there. And what the NJC is trying to do with the appointment, with the coming of the new CGN now, is to try and see that they can curb these issues and put them in order. And we are happy with it. With lawyers, because it will help the administration of justice in this country. Yeah. It will help you and I. And there will be faith and public trust in the system. Yes, at the end of the day, even with lawyers, they will say, come, you don't need to, don't brief a lawyer. I can go all the way, I can do whatever, like that.